English Easy Podcast.
Hello, learners. Welcome back to English Easy Podcast, your partner to learning English.
Thanks for having me back.
Of course. So in today's deep dive, we are looking at something that honestly haunts almost every intermediate learner.
Oh, absolutely. It is a very common trap.
Right. So I want you to picture this. You are a busy office professional. You're sitting in this high-stakes board meeting.
Sounds stressful already.
Right. And the entire room of international colleagues goes perfectly quiet, waiting for your input. And you suddenly freeze.
The classic deer in the headlights moment.
Exactly. But not because you forgot your data or, because your idea isn't brilliant. You freeze because you simply cannot decide whether to say, I will or I am going to.
Yeah, that hesitation is so real. And we've been looking through a really fascinating stack of sources for this deep dive.
We really have. Linguistic research papers, surveys of corporate communication, psychological studies on language fluency, all of it.
And they all point to the exact same phenomenon. When you freeze in that meeting, you are basically experiencing cognitive overload.
Cognitive overload, like your brain has too many tabs open.
That's a great way to put it, yeah. You're trying to run this complex textbook grammar algorithm in your head in real time.
Right.
You're assuming that all the native speakers in the room are doing the same kind of rapid-fire grammar math, which just isn't true.
I have to admit, that is exactly how I was taught. In school, you get these rigid grammar tables.
Oh, the dreaded tables.
Right. You memorize them, and you try to apply them like, mathematical formulas. Are you saying that's not how native speakers process this?
Not at all. Native speakers do not use algorithms. They feel the room.
They feel the room.
Yeah, they use grammar to broadcast their internal mental state. So today, our mission is to completely dismantle your fear of the future tense.
I love that. We are moving away from the dry rules.
Exactly. Instead, we're going to look at the psychology behind these words. That way, you can actually feel the right choice based on the context, the emotion, and, the specific office situation you're in.
So we're essentially learning how to read minds, or at least how to project our own mind accurately to our colleagues.
Precisely. We are turning grammar from a trap into a psychological tool.
That sounds incredibly useful for busy professionals.
It really is. And to do that, we have to start with the baseline of our daily routines. Let's look at how we communicate established plans.
Okay, so what we call the pre-planned future, right? The going-to concept.
Yes.
But wait, if fluency is about human connection and psychology, why do we start with something as, rigid as a schedule?
Because the schedule is your anchor. The fundamental mechanism of going to is that it represents a plan that already exists in your mind.
Okay, so it's already there.
Right. And to understand why, we actually have to look briefly at the history of the language. Historically, going to meant literal physical movement.
Like actually walking somewhere.
Exactly. You would say, I am going to the river to get water. You were physically on the path.
So you had already started the journey.
Yes. And over centuries, that physical movement became a metaphor for mental movement.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, so when you use going to today, you're signaling to your international colleagues that the mental journey has already begun. The decision was made long before you opened your mouth to speak.
That makes a lot of sense. Let me see if I can map this onto a daily workplace scenario.
Go for it.
Say it's 9 in the morning. A project manager walks over to your desk and asks about your availability this afternoon.
A very common situation.
Right. And you already know your schedule because, you blocked out your calendar yesterday. So you say, I'm going to attend a strategy meeting at 3 p.m., or I'm going to finish the quarterly report.
That is the perfect application. You're basically telling the manager, I am already on the path to finishing this report.
It sounds so grounded.
It does. It projects competence and preparation. And it applies to our personal lives, too.
Oh, for sure.
Like, imagine sitting on your sofa on a Sunday evening. You check your email, you realize how much work is waiting for you on Monday, and the intention suddenly solidifies in your mind.
You make the decision right then and there.
Exactly. You decide, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. The plan is officially planted.
Okay, since our focus here is on practical application for busy professionals, I want to pause for a second.
Sure.
Because knowing the history of a phrase doesn't help much if your mouth physically stumbles over it in a meeting. We really need to build that muscle memory.
Absolutely. Pronunciation is key.
So wherever you are listening right now, whether you're commuting in your car or sitting at your desk, Let's do a quick mental and vocal exercise.
I love this idea.
I am going to say a sentence describing a firm work plan. I want you to say it out loud after me. Focus on the weight and certainty of the phrase. Ready? I'm going to finish this report today.
The key there is the lack of hesitation. You aren't guessing.
Exactly. Let's try one more, carrying that same professional certainty. I'm going to attend a meeting at 3 p.m.
Good. Building that physical comfort with the phrase is just crucial.
It really is. But I want to push us forward here. It's great to talk about our perfect color-coded calendars.
If only they stayed that way.
Right. But what happens when that calendar completely blows up at 9:05? The real corporate world is chaotic. How do we communicate when we're suddenly forced off the path?
Well, that is exactly where will enters the conversation. If going to is the pre-planned journey, will is the spontaneous shift.
The spontaneous shift, okay.
Yeah, we use will for instant decisions, offers, and promises that are born in the exact moment of speaking.
I'm really curious about the mechanism here. Why will? Why does that specific word carry the weight of spontaneity?
It comes back to the root of the word again. In Old English, the word willin didn't actually mean the future.
Really? What did it mean?
It meant desire, volition, or willpower. It was a statement of present moment intention.
Oh, like imposing your will on something.
Exactly. So when you use will today, you're subconsciously signaling a sudden burst of willpower. I desire to do this right now.
That makes so much sense. It's completely reactionary.
Yes, very reactive.
Let's paint a picture of an urgent office scenario to illustrate this. Imagine you had that 3 p.m. strategy meeting. You told your manager, I'm going to attend a meeting.
The established path.
Right. But at 10 minutes to 3, you get an automated email. The main client just canceled.
Oh, the worst.
Yeah. And your manager looks over at you, realizing the schedule just opened up, and asks, well, the meeting is off. What will you do now?
See, in that split second, you haven't had time to make a calendar appointment in your brain. You aren't on any path.
And no path at all.
So you instantly access your volition, your willpower, and you say, I think I'll finish my report.
You don't say, I am going to finish my report because you literally just decided that 2 seconds ago.
Right. It's brand new information. Let's look at an even more high-pressure situation. Say you're in the IT department. The server alarms start going off, screens are flashing, and your boss runs into the room shouting, the main database is crashing, we need someone on the backup drives right now.
High panic situation.
Exactly. You immediately respond, I'll do it, or I'll help you.
Because it's an offer of immediate assistance. You didn't wake up this morning planning to fix a crashing server.
Right, you're just reacting to the distress in the room.
Let's actually walk through how seamlessly these two concepts interact in a real conversation. Let's do a quick simulation.
Sure, let's do it.
Okay, so say two colleagues are chatting by the coffee machine. One asks, hey, what are your plans for the weekend? The other replies, I'm going to visit my parents.
Right, that is the established plan.
But then the first colleague looks at their phone and says, oh, wow, the boss just messaged the team. He needs a few people to come in tomorrow morning to help move the new office desks.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, right. And the second colleague instantly pivots and says, oh, man, okay, I'll come in after lunch.
That is a brilliant breakdown. The weekend trip was the established path, so we use going to. The desk moving was the spontaneous shift, so we use will.
But I have to challenge something here. Based on what I hear from a lot of learners.
These do.
A lot of the intermediate learners I speak with deliberately avoid going to in business settings.
Really? Why is that?
They have this idea that will is more formal, more advanced, and just more professional. They think going to sounds, too casual for a boardroom or a client email.
I am incredibly glad you brought this up because the linguistics research we reviewed highlights this as one of the biggest misconceptions among language learners.
That's not true.
Not at all. Using will for everything does not make you sound more professional. In fact, it makes you sound unnatural and sometimes even a bit robotic to your international colleagues.
Robotic. Wow. How does it sound robotic?
Well, let's use a great metaphor. Many learners treat will like a verbal suit and tie. They put it on to sound smart.
Right. To dress up their language.
Exactly. But remember the psychology. Will signals a sudden, spontaneous decision. So imagine you're discussing a major product launch that your team has been planning for 6 months.
Oh.
If you stand up in the boardroom and say, I will launch the project on Friday, it sounds to a native speaker like you just decided to do it right then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it sounds entirely improvised.
So you are accidentally telling the room that you haven't been planning this at all.
Exactly. But if you say, we are going to launch the project on Friday, you are signaling that this is a deeply considered pre-planned execution.
It sounds incredibly competent and prepared.
Yes. Don't force will into a sentence just to sound formal. You have to match the grammar to the psychological reality of the situation.
That is a massive paradigm shift. But it makes me wonder about the gray areas. Because the workplace isn't just about managing schedules and tasks.
True.
A huge part of being a successful professional is reading the room, making projections, and managing emotions. How do these linguistic tools handle something abstract, like making a prediction?
They handle it beautifully, actually, by drawing a line between evidence and opinion.
Evidence versus opinion.
Yeah, in business, we make predictions all the time. But there is a fundamental difference between looking at hard data versus just sharing a gut feeling. And the grammar splits right down that line.
Break that down for me. If I'm making a prediction based on data, why doesn't will work? I mean, will sounds so definitive.
Think back to the path metaphor. If you have evidence, the event is already on the path to happening.
Okay.
Let's use a classic corporate example, quarterly earnings.
Everyone's favorite.
Right. If you're a financial analyst and you're staring at a spreadsheet showing that Q3 sales have dropped by 20%, you have physical evidence. The drop has already begun.
The numbers are right there in front of you.
Exactly. In that case, you point to the data and say, we are going to miss our targets.
Because the evidence is right there, the trajectory is set.
Precisely. But let's say you're sitting in the break room, you haven't seen any data, you haven't read the reports, but you just have a pessimistic feeling about the market.
It's just a hunch.
Yeah. You're relying on your own personal volition and belief.
Yeah.
You would say, I think we will miss our targets. That is an opinion. There is no proof.
So evidence equals going to. Opinion equals will. That is incredibly clear. What about emotions?
Emotions are fascinating here.
Because offices can be highly emotional environments. People get stressed, they get passed over for promotions, they get frustrated. Does emotional intensity change the grammar?
It absolutely dictates the grammar. The psychological studies on language use showed that sudden spikes of emotion almost always trigger will.
Let me test that theory. Say you just walked out of a terrible, completely unfair performance review with a toxic manager.
Ouch.
Yeah. You're feeling incredibly hurt, your adrenaline is pumping, and you vent to a trusted coworker. You might say, I'll never talk to him again, or I'll never forgive this.
Notice what your brain instinctively reached for. I will never forgive this, because it is a sudden, intense burst of willpower.
It's a promise you're making in the heat of the moment.
Exactly, but let's contrast that. Fast forward 3 weeks. You've calmed down. You've spent days analyzing your career path, talking to mentors, and reviewing your finances.
You're in a much better headspace.
Right. You sit down with that same coworker over coffee and calmly say, I'm going to change my job.
The anger has transformed into a strategy.
Yes, if you told your friend, I will change my job, while calmly sipping your coffee, it sounds disconnected, as if you just randomly decided at that exact second.
Right.
But saying, I am going to change my job, broadcasts that this is a mature, thoroughly mapped out life change.
It really is about communicating your internal state to the world, which means it's time to put these concepts to the test.
Let's do it.
If you are a busy professional heading into an international meeting tomorrow, you need a way to access this without overthinking.
And to help bypass that cognitive overload we talked about, we've distilled this into a practical 4-point mental checklist.
Perfect.
When you feel that moment of panic, use these 4 triggers. Number 1, does this plan already live in my head? Has the journey begun? If yes, use going to.
Number 2, was this decision born just now, in this exact second? If yes, use will.
Number 3, am I making a spontaneous promise or an offer of help? If yes, use will.
And number 4, is there concrete physical evidence right in front of me for my prediction? If yes, use going to.
That checklist grounds you in the context, but, knowing the theory isn't enough. We have to practice deploying it.
I completely agree. It is time for a quick challenge segment. We're going to do a rapid mental exercise.
Let's see how they do.
I am going to give you, the listener, a scenario. I will pause for a brief moment. I want you to actively decide, and if you can, speak your answer out loud, choosing either the will phrase or the going to phrase. Then we'll break down the correct response. Are you ready? Let's dive in.
Let's go.
Scenario 1. You are walking down the main office hallway. You see a coworker trip and suddenly drop all their presentation folders and their phone all over the floor. You
Yeah.
step forward. Do you say, I'm going to help, or I'll help? Just take a second to think.
The natural response here is, I'll help.
Yep.
You didn't plan for them to drop their folders. This is a sudden decision born in the moment, a spontaneous offer of assistance driven by your immediate volition.
Exactly. All right, scenario 2. You're sitting in a marathon 3-hour budget meeting. A client across the table is coughing repeatedly and looking really uncomfortable. You notice an empty water pitcher. You stand up. You say, I'm going to get you some water, or I'll get you some water. Take a second to decide.
You should say, I'll get you some water. Again, this is a spontaneous offer. It's a reaction to witnessing their immediate discomfort.
Perfect. Okay, let's try one more. Scenario 3. You recently bought a subscription to a professional development course, and you spent the last 3 evenings reading the syllabus.
Oh, very diligent.
Yes, very prepared. You are chatting with your manager about your goals for the quarter. Do you say, I'll start taking management classes, or I'm going to start taking management classes? Make your choice.
The psychologically accurate answer here is, I'm going to start taking management classes. You bought the subscription, you read the syllabus. The path has already been paved in your mind.
So how did you do? Did your brain intuitively reach for the right phrase? And, even if you missed one, I want to emphasize something really important here.
Yes, please do.
Having the courage to speak in a high-stakes environment is half the battle. How do we build that muscle so our listeners don't freeze up in the real world?
By looking at the reality of corporate communication, the surveys we reviewed from international business hubs are incredibly reassuring on this front.
Reassuring how?
They show that in the fast-paced corporate world, absolutely no one stops a business negotiation to critique your grammar.
Can you imagine? You're discussing a $1 million merger and a stakeholder says, actually, you should have used the pre-planned future tense to describe that asset acquisition. It is absurd.
It never happens. If you mistakenly say, I will launch the project next week when it was actually a meticulously planned event, people still understand the timeline.
The project still gets launched.
Exactly. The communication is functionally successful. Fluency is about movement. It's about keeping the exchange of ideas flowing smoothly, not pausing for 10 seconds of agonizing silence to search for mathematical perfection.
Fluency is movement. That is a fantastic takeaway. But to keep that momentum going, we want to give you a specific, highly actionable tool, something you can use to build this habit without the pressure of a boardroom full of colleagues staring at you.
Yes. For all the busy professionals listening, I want to assign you a specific 5-minute exercise. I want you to incorporate this into your nightly routine right before you go to bed.
Just 5 minutes.
Just 5 minutes. It takes very little time, but it wires the psychology directly into your brain.
Walk us through it. What's step 1?
Step 1, ask yourself out loud, what am I already planning for tomorrow? And then physically practice answering that question out loud using going to.
Give us an example.
So say to yourself, I'm going to email the overseas client. Or I'm going to prep for my 10 a.m. marketing review.
Grounding the established plans. I like it. And step 2.
Step 2, ask yourself out loud, what chaotic thing might happen suddenly tomorrow? And practice answering that hypothetical with will.
Preparing for the unexpected.
Exactly. For example, if the video conference link breaks, I'll send a calendar invite. Or if my boss asks for the data early, I'll pull the preliminary numbers.
Doing this aloud, alone in your room or on your commute is incredibly powerful. You're removing the anxiety of the audience.
Yes, there's zero pressure.
You're giving your brain the physical practice of forming the words in a completely safe space, building that muscle memory.
Exactly. You are training your brain to stop running grammar algorithms. You're training it to link the feeling of a solid plan with going to, and the feeling of a sudden, spontaneous reaction with will.
So let's pull all these threads together. The core takeaway from today's deep dive is that you must prioritize context, emotion, and psychology over rigid grammar tables.
Remember the history of the words.
Yes, established plans and evidence-based predictions belong to going to because the journey has already begun. Instant decisions, sudden spikes of emotion, and spontaneous offers of help belong to will because they represent your immediate willpower.
When you strip away the fear of perfection, the language becomes a highly intuitive tool.
It really does. But before we sign off, we want to leave you with one final provocative thought to take with you into your work week.
Oh, this is my favorite part.
The next time you're sitting in a meeting with an international colleague, don't just listen to the raw vocabulary they use. Listen to their grammar.
This is where it all comes together. When they use will versus going to, what are they unknowingly revealing about their mental state?
Yes. Are they presenting you with a carefully constructed, pre-approved project plan? Or, by listening closely to their grammar, are you witnessing them make a spontaneous decision in real time right in front of your eyes?
Use their grammar as a window into their thought process.
Suddenly, you aren't just hearing English, you are reading their mind. Keep practicing those nightly exercises. Keep your momentum moving forward, and most importantly, keep speaking. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.